Hi, this is Andre. I want to talk about the Expert Interface Mode on the Echoplex Digital Pro. Thank you very much to Mark Oswald for commissioning this one. We started talking about interface modes a couple of videos back, and they basically have to do with different parameter values in the loop delay parameter. So if you come down to the bottom parameter row under the record column, you have, by default, you have 4 different values here. And I say by default because interface modes are a little strange for a lot of reasons, but particularly for the fact that if you have an expression pedal plugged in to the feedback jack, then you actually get an extra 4 interface modes that are not available if you don't have anything plugged in. I don't have anything plugged into the jack right now, so right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We've already talked about loop and delay. We touched on stutter a long time ago. We're going to address stutter again, but for right now, for this video, we're going to talk about expert. That's what X looks like in the EDP display. So like a lot of interface modes, expert mode has to do with what happens with feedback and different ways of using feedback as you build up and evolve a loop. What makes expert mode a little more intriguing is that by default it's available if there's nothing plugged in to the rear panel feedback jack. But if you do plug something into the rear panel feedback jack, then expert mode takes on additional functionality that is not present if you don't have something plugged into the feedback input jack, even though expert mode is available if you don't have something plugged into the input jack. Clear as mud, right? Don't worry about it. I will attempt to explain everything. So let's look at expert mode in the most basic sense. I'm going to record a loop, overdub something, and get out of overdub. So far, so good. Now, feedback generally reduces the level of old layers in a loop and causes them to fade out. So I'm going to reduce the front panel feedback knob. You can see the display, the feedback value is going down. But the audio isn't decaying the way it normally would with feedback. The reason is that in the most basic sense, expert mode has feedback set to 100% by default. The only time you can reduce feedback is when you're overdubbing. So if I press overdub, now you can hear that's starting to fade out a little bit. If I add new things on top, now you can hear the old layers are basically gone. Now I'm going to exit overdub. And now feedback is back at 100%. So if I decide to noodle gratuitously over the top, the loop isn't decaying, even though feedback is lower than 100%, because in expert mode, in the most basic sense, feedback is only active if you enter overdub. So let's enter overdub. Now you can hear the old layers are fading out. So this is more of what we would expect from conventional feedback effects. And now if I exit overdub, the loop is locked at 100% feedback. So now if I play over the top, then open overdub, and now feedback is active. Can bring it down if you want to fade out faster, which I do, because that's kind of a weird sound. I'm in a weird sound kind of mood tonight. Then exit overdub, and we're back to 100%. can hear there's a little fade there. That little volume swell where it gets louder is where I brought the feedback up to 100%. Etc., etc. So that's expert mode in the most basic sense. The reason I keep saying in the most basic sense in this video, aside from the fact that that's one of my catchphrases, is also because expert mode assumes different functionality if you have an external expression pedal plugged in to the feedback jack. So let's do that. Here's my external expression pedal. It's actually a volume pedal. I'm going to plug the volume pedal into the rear panel feedback jack and try and avoid falling over at the same time. I know that would make for a very entertaining video, but if it's all the same to you, I will try and entertain you in other ways. So, here's the feedback pedal. Here's my foot. Good thing I pointed that out. Now you can see that the front panel display is representing feedback as I move the pedal. When you plug a pedal into the feedback jack, what happens is that the pedal controls loop feedback when overdub is off. And if you turn overdub on, feedback is controlled by the front panel knob. So you can have two different types of feedback depending on whether or not you're overdubbing or just letting the loop play. So let me play a loop. Volume up, Andre. Let me play a loop. Now that's repeating indefinitely. Now if I bring the front panel knob down, you're not hearing any change because overdub isn't open. So I'm going to open overdub. Now you can see it's at 110, which is a little less than 100%. I'm going to bring it up a little higher. Okay, so that's very close to 100%, but there will be a bit of a decay. Now I'm going to exit overdub. Right now, the loop feedback when you're out of overdub is being determined by the feedback pedal, and right now it's at 100%. So if I just noodle gratuitously over the top, then it's not going to decay, but let's let it decay a little bit. Let's bring it down a hair. There we go. Now I'm going to open overdub again. So let's do this. Let's bring the overdub feedback up all the way, 127. That means that the layers are not going to fade out while I'm overdubbing. This is basically 100% feedback, infinite repetition. That means that if I want stuff to fade out, I need to exit overdub. Now that's the display for the unoverdubbed feedback, which was set by the pedal. And since it's less than 100%, you can hear we're starting to fade out. Loop's almost gone, so I'm going to enter overdub again. Overdub is set to 127, so anything I play now is going to repeat infinitely. until I either exit overdub or bring the overdub feedback level down. I'm going to do that a little bit. So this is very close to 100%, but there is a bit of a decay. Exit overdub. Now feedback is being determined by the pedal, and it's a slightly faster rate of decay. Oh, sorry about the perfect fourth in there. Feedback pedal setting is going to be 100%. The overdub front panel feedback is going to be very low. Well, fairly low. This means that when we're in overdub, layers are going to fade out pretty quickly, especially since it's a pretty short loop. And you can hear that fades out pretty quickly. And you can hear the older layers are decaying because the feedback level is not that high. So I'm going to exit overdub, and you can hear the little volume bump there from where I pressed the overdub button. That's because exiting overdub put feedback back to 100%, because when you exit overdub, you have the feedback controlled by the pedal value, and the pedal is all the way up, so that's 100%. So now I can noodle gratuitously over the top. That's pretty gratuitous, and it's not going to fade out. So now let me open overdub again. Exiting overdub, feedback is back to 100%. Open overdub again. I'm going to be deliberately sloppy. Yeah, it's deliberate. That's it. Perfect. Reverse. Yeah, that's all right. And I can play over the top of that again. Open overdub, bring feedback a little higher up there so it doesn't decay quite as quickly. Close overdub, and now I'm going to bring the feedback pedal amount down a little bit so that it fades out gradually. Come on, pedal. Come on, pedal. Where are you, pedal? There's a lot of dead space on this particular pedal. There we go. Back into overdub. So now feedback is at 104. Exit overdub, now feedback is at 112. Let's bring it down lower. So nudging the pedal. 94. Overdub a little more. Get out of overdub. So that's expert mode, one of the interface modes on the Echoplex Digital Pro. It basically gives you different control of feedback when you're overdubbing as opposed to when you're not overdubbing. If you have a pedal plugged into the rear panel feedback jack, then the pedal controls feedback when you're not overdubbing, and the front panel knob controls feedback when you are overdubbing. Like so. If you don't have a pedal plugged into the rear panel feedback jack, then the feedback knob sets feedback when overdub is open, and when you don't have overdub open, feedback stays at 100%, regardless of what the feedback knob is set to, if you don't have one of these things plugged into the back. If you do have one of them plugged into the back, then this determines the feedback level when you are not in overdub. So, not the easiest thing to describe, but like a lot of the interface modes, it's a really cool, really different way of accessing functionality that you might take for granted. Thank you again very much to Mark Oswald for commissioning this, and thank you all for tuning in. I will talk to you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.